Welcome back, guys. Week 1 of the regular season is in the books, and we came away with a dominant victory on the road against the Washington Commanders. Before we get started, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on those notifications down below. Now let's not waste any time and get straight into talking about what happened in last week's game. After 4 quarters of action, we came away with a massive 42-7 victory over the hometown Commanders. While I don't see this becoming a normal thing for a team in our position, these kind of things can happen in week 1, especially with a team who's up in the air like Washington. But we question if he's going to be ready for the moment, and Colt McCoy stepped up as the day 1 starter, and he threw for 358 yards and 3 touchdowns. He wasn't perfect by any means, and his receivers definitely made some big plays for him, but he managed the game well and ultimately leads this offense to their highs and their lows. The main highlight of his day was his scrambling. He took off 7 times, picked up 50 on the ground, and most of them being in key situations to move the chains. But if we're talking about his playmakers, let's talk about Hollywood Brown, who went over 100 yards on 3 catches, and that is mainly due to the huge 79-yard touchdown catch where he won off the line in single press coverage, and that can be truly deadly against a defense. The rookie Michael Wilson also had an amazing debut, bringing in 4 for 88, with one of them being an impressive touchdown grab where he had to get physical and bounce off defenders to get in for the score. And that's exactly how you want to start your career here. Another young guy who stepped up today was Trey McBride. He made some physical plays like this one where he went up over 2 defenders and came away with it. And you can truly tell he's learning a lot from the veteran Zach Ertz. Although the score was pretty inflated, they did have some defensive standouts like linebacker Jamin Davis, who came away with the early interception from McCoy and finished with 7 tackles on the day, one of them being a touchdown-saving one, where he used his body as a shield to keep a diving McCoy out of the end zone. And the guy we talked about all day long was Jonathan Allen. He finished the day with double-digit tackles, 4 for a loss, and 1.5 sacks. He ruined the run game for us for most of the game, and our interior offensive line just had no answer to his dominance. As time passed, we finally did get that run game going, eventually getting James Conner near 60 yards on the ground, along with getting in the end zone twice. We also ended up entering Corey Clement late, and he averaged over 6 yards a carry, and he got in the end zone as well. Switching our focus to the Washington offense, Jacoby Brissett struggled all day long, only getting 153 through the air, 1 touchdown, and 3 interceptions. And most of that came from the fact that Terry McLaurin was made a non-factor. He had only 3 catches for a mere 7 yards. He did have a touchdown where he ran a really great route in the end zone, but he definitely expects more of himself there. For the running game, there was 1 drive in the 3rd quarter where Brian Robinson got hot, getting most of his 49 rushing yards on the day with carry after carry after carry. But for the most part, he just couldn't get anything going. And that was headlined by a great defensive effort by Zaven Collins. Usually the backup middle linebacker, we subbed him in as an outside backer in nickel and dime defenses when Ojulari was rushing the passer. And he played phenomenally, finishing with 12 total tackles with 1 going for a loss. And that pass rush was a bit quiet as Brissett was very good at throwing the ball away. Both of our young rushers and Bryce Young and BJ Ojulari did come away with a sack each. And we have to talk about the interceptions. The first came from Xavier Rhodes, who took advantage of just a very poor thrown ball that basically went straight to him, but he secured it and took it for a big 31-yard return. The next came from Budda Baker, who timed it up perfectly, jumping the pass at the very last moment to come away with the massive INT as they pushed closer to a score to get this offense back on the field. And the last came from Marco Wilson, and he essentially sealed this game early in the 4th as down 4 scores. They tried to take a shot, but Wilson closed his pace quickly and came away with a nice toe drag interception to secure the takeaway. And I would be mistaken if I didn't mention one of the best special teams plays we may see this entire year. Late in the first half, with the Commanders looking for their first points of the day, they called a fake field goal where Sam Howell threw a laser to the tackle Charles Leno Jr., who held on through a massive hit and eventually led to their only touchdown on the day. After the game, we met with some of our players, the first being BJ Ojulari, who said he told us he would be great. He said he's not going to waste any opportunities, so we won't regret continuing to give them to him. And we responded by saying he has been doing great, but the key is to be able to do it week in and week out. The stars of this league aren't just good in a few games, they do something special every single week. And Ojulari walked away with an extra 10,000 XP for that. The next guy was Buda Baker, and he talked about how everyone says this is a passing league, but we dominated out there, and games like these are a very nice boost to the secondary's overall confidence. We told him they did a great job today, and if we are able to sustain that all year long, we are truly capable of beating anybody. And because of our performance, all of our defensive backs earned 4,500 XP, and we earned 10 staff points as well. Now, moving along, we didn't get the chance to go over it as we had so much going on in the last news episode, but let's take a moment to talk about our schedule for this upcoming year. We have already started our 3-week stretch against NFC East opponents, which will end as we defend our home turf against Dallas. Then, in week 4, we have our first division battle as we travel to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. After that, we then move into a rough span of our year, facing some tough matchups against playoff favorites like the Bengals, Ravens, and Browns. We hopefully are able to find some wins against weaker competition after week 10, as we should have Kyler Murray back. We play teams like the Falcons, the Texans, and the Steelers. We then have a very late bye in week 14 and close out the last 4 games of the year facing the 49ers, Bears, Eagles, and then ending it all at home against Seattle. And now's the time to check out the news and see what the key headlines are. A lot of talk going on about the upcoming draft class, and it starts with the defensive end Zeke Carrington out of Arkansas, who had a record-setting game this week which only improved his draft stock. The University of Oregon held their annual team talent show with a lot of fun stories, but the winner was defensive tackle Jay Patterson. Doesn't really involve his football ability, but that does mean he is potentially a very great locker room guy, and we'll have to look into it. And with all the talk about this draft, many believe middle linebacker David Teal is flying under the radar and could potentially be a steal come April. Colt McCoy finds himself in the top 3 of the passing leaders after week 1, but we have to recognize Joe Burrow's dominant performance as he threw for 381 yards and 5 touchdowns. And he now looks ahead to this week as we see a marquee AFC North matchup in which his Bengals take on the Ravens in week 2. We then took some time to look over the talent trees for the coaching staff, and I have decided our best strategy is to build the coaching foundation through ourselves. So the majority of our early decisions will involve improving our own head coach's skills. And with that in mind, we decided to complete both upgrades for Eye for Talent, which is going to make the talents of the player personnel tree cost 20% less. But now is the time. We can look forward to our upcoming Week 2 matchup in which we have our home opener against the New York Giants. Maybe not the most impressive team skill-wise, but with the grit a team led by Brian Daboll brings, it's going to be a tough matchup for us nonetheless. Something may be in our favor, as in fact they are reeling off a tough loss to the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. The final score was 28-24, where Dallas came back in the fourth with 3 unanswered touchdowns to take the win. And the story of the comeback was that they could not stop the pass, as Dak Prescott ended the day throwing 26 for 32 and over 300 yards with his 2 touchdowns going to CeeDee Lamb. But now, we have to find our way to get our own win. And it starts with trying to figure out how to stop their superstar running back, Saquon Barkley. A dominant back through the run and the pass, and he's looking as good as he's ever, coming off a Pro Bowl season a year ago in which he ran for over 1,300 yards. In the passing game, they need to worry about locking down Darren Waller. He was traded from the Raiders this offseason in exchange for a 3rd-round pick, and he missed a month of last season with a hamstring injury, but he is an elite talent when he is healthy. They are hoping he can find his way back to being a 1,000-yard receiver like he did when named to the Pro Bowl in 2020. Their defense is led by the Pro Bowl defensive tackle Dexter Lawrence. He put together a 7.5 sack season last year, which earned him a Pro Bowl nod. And after we struggled with Allen this week, it's not looking great for us against Lawrence. And one of their biggest wild cards to watch out for is their outside linebacker, Azeez Ojulari. The name might sound familiar because this is the older brother of our second-round pick, BJ Ojulari, and both guys are oozing with potential. Azeez is now in the third year of NFL football, and after coming away with 5.5 sacks and 3 forced fumbles a season ago, he is looking to break out, and that starts with having a big game today and besting his brother on the road. Now knowing who we are going up against, let's figure out the game plan going into this week. On the defensive side, this team flows through Saquon, so we are going to focus on defending the inside run. If we can stall their momentum in the run game, we will force them to pass the ball against our secondary, who are coming off a phenomenal showing a week ago. On the offensive side, we are going to focus on countering the blitz. With nothing to lose, they showed a week ago they are willing to blitz very often, as they called the third most across the league. That means quick throws and being aware of the extra rushers. As we were discussing our goals, we got a text from our number one corner, Marco Wilson. He said, "Coach, did you see the film from last week? The secondary was locked down. It was the best game he's played in a very long time. He feels like he's coming into his own. He said another game like last week, and he will truly feel like he's arrived." And with that, we decided his goal is going to be to hold the Giants to under 200 passing yards, or for Wilson to get an interception, forced fumble, tackle for loss, or a sack. We then spotted Ojulari in the locker room, and we told him he's really impressed us every step of the way. We can tell he's on the verge of going from showing flashes to shining bright at all times. He said he's been trying to tell us the same thing. He is ready for every challenge and that his hard work will pay off. And after that, we decided his goal would be for him to get 3 combined sacks and tackles for loss. After this, we came up with our final list of goals. Along with these, we want to win the turnover battle. We are 2 very evenly matched teams, and in games like this, turnovers are usually the difference maker. Next, we want to try to put up 350 plus offensive yards. We had a massive day a week ago, and there's no reason we can't follow that up today against this Giant defense. On the defensive side, we want to hold them to 14 points or less. They aren't an elite offense, and if we can lock them down on defense, we can only extend our chances of victory that much more. And lastly, we want to come away with an INT. Daniel Jones isn't the best QB by any means, and if we can force him to throw an interception, maybe it rattles this offense and gets them all out of whack. After this, we finished up our final practice, and we saw a lot of growth coming out of this week. Our first player of note was BJ Ojulari, and he continued to improve his awareness, strength, finesse moves, tackle, and zone coverage ability. Next up was our hybrid safety Isaiah Simmons, and after a somewhat quiet game last week, he improved in his awareness and man coverage. After being a vital part of the passing attack last week, we saw some improvement from Rondale Moore, and he grew in his catching in traffic, short route running, spectacular catching, and his stiff arm, believably. Back to the safeties, and we are looking at Jalen Thompson. We saw the 25-year-old improve in his awareness, man coverage, play rec, press, and pursuit. After a standout receiving performance in Washington, Trey McBride continued to grow as well, but this growth had more to do with his blocking responsibilities. He improved in his awareness, lead block, pass, and run blocking, and specific improvement in his run block against power and finesse moves. Second to last is the man who came away with the massive toe drag pick, Marco Wilson. And he continues to steadily progress as he improved his awareness, man coverage, and press ability. And last but not least is our third round rookie, corner Garrett Wilson. And he had massive growth as he improved in his man and zone coverages, play rec, press, and tackling. On the injury side, we made it unseated this week, but 2 significant injuries for them. The first is their second-year linebacker, Kayvon Thibodeau. He is suffering from a hip pointer after being drafted 5th overall just a year ago. They are looking for him to take that next step this year, so that is a huge loss for them. The other injury is also a hip pointer, and this time the impacted player is the 30-year-old William Jackson. Their corner group isn't great unit to start, and now as they are without one of their most solid contributors along the veteran presence he brings, it will be interesting to see how they adapt to this hurt injury. And with that, we have finally covered everything that we needed to. I hope you all enjoyed. If you did, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on those notifications down below, and I can't wait to see you all next time as we head home for week 2 to take on the Giants. Catch you all then.